If you follow my video, you will make a perfect DIY project. This is the DIY lie that everyone has been trying to tell you with their perfectly polished videos. Fortunately, I am here to help you with 25 things that you can do after you think you've finished building your project to take it from being good to being great. All right, so we got 25 things, and these are all things that professional YouTubers like 5 Minute Crafts and the S think about before making their videos, but they never told you. All right, thing number one is you want to make your project easy to share. So what we're talking about here are all these things that you could do after you finish building your project. So like per se, I made this cardboard gun right here, and I wanted to really make it like as good as the one in the video. There's all kinds of things that can be slightly tweaked to make the next version better, because in this video we're really talking about how to make projects better than they were before. So if I took this project, I think I'm done, and I want to make it easier to share, like our tip number 1 out of 25, then I might take it and make it a little bit more durable, or make it easier to understand, perhaps, if it's some sort of practical creation that people need to use hands-on. You can make it easier to share. And then you can also make your project look nicer. That's tip number 2 for just making your projects look better. So you might finish your project, and it seems obvious, but if you finish your project and you feel like you're done, you can always take it to the next level. It makes it a lot more, gets a lot closer to those ones that you see in those professional videos, and make it look nicer by painting it or doing something like that. And then, or cleaning it up, covering up some of the corrugation. Perhaps if you create something like this cardboard sword, then you use a piece of paper here to cover up all of the corrugation down the center so it looks a little bit smoother. That's always an option. You can also make your project more durable. So durability is super important when you're crafting, because it can be really hard to share things with other people or have them last any amount of time if it isn't strong enough. So you want to design for strength from the start of your project, and if you follow me with my 5-step crafting framework, then you will have done that through the other 4 steps. We are on step number 5, which is improve, so we're taking our projects to the next level. But durability, you could do this by adding different sorts of ribs and things to your project, maybe making it out of a better kind of cardboard, something that's thicker, or adding reinforcements in it. Like I said, you can design it better. And then also, the next tip number 4 is you can make it waterproof. This is something a lot of people don't think about, but perhaps you're going to use something outside. You want to consider how water resistant your project is, and coat it with anything, maybe from Mod Podge up to, you could try to just coat it with hot glue or something professional from like Gorilla Glue that's designed for waterproofing. And you can also change the weight of your project to make it feel a lot more professional. So what I do a lot of times is I'll fill projects with sand, like this headphone stand. This is not necessarily for professionalism, but it helps the headphone stand stay up. Because the headphones are so heavy, it would tip over all the time, but because I filled the base with sand, it's a lot heavier and is able to stay upright a lot better. It also feels nicer when you're holding it because it's just got that good weight to it. And tip number 6 is to change the size of your project, right? Bigger isn't always better, so sometimes you want to change the size of your project and make it smaller, make it bigger. I could take this cardboard gun and realize that I actually wanted it to be a little bit of a different size, and I can always change that up, make it a different size, or for some other purpose in a different size. Tip number 7 is you can make it again, but with new materials. So sometimes cardboard is just a great thing to prototype with, but it doesn't really last super long in a lot of scenarios. You can see in the background of this image, I actually have my cardboard shield, and you'll see these wooden reinforcements along here going up and down. So this is a little bit more on the strengthening side, but I did I thought about putting cardboard reinforcements here, and I changed them out for wood, which just made it a lot stronger. And now tip number 8 is to simply make a copy. So your first try is never going to be your best try. And so when you're able to just duplicate a project, make a second one, you can use all the tips you learned from the first one to make the second one both better and to make it faster than you made the first one. So you can make a copy of your project, and sometimes this is also, you're just like, it's useful to have more than one of the same thing, so you'll make those copies. Tip number 9 is to cover the corrugation of your project. So this is sort of grouped in with looking nicer, but on a little bit deeper level. Over here I have a big cardboard prop that I've been working on for a while, and you can see all this white stuff on it. This is all spackle filler that I've been using to cover up the corrugation on the gun so that it looks a lot smoother, and once I sand it all down and coat it in like primer and paint, it'll look way cooler than if I had all these cardboard corrugations sticking out. You might not even be able to tell that it is cardboard at all. So you can use spackle filler like that, or perhaps like on this headphone stand, I used paper to cover the corrugation so you can't see that. It looks a little bit more crafty that way and less professional if you use the paper route. And tip number 10 is to change out a part of your project. So you might, like I said, swap something over to wood or maybe something to plastic. A lot of the time you're able to find little plastic bits that you can cut stuff out of. Maybe I would take the lid of this container and cut like a little triangle out of it for some part that needed to be a lot stronger. And then in this image in the background, you can see it's a little bit covered up, but there's a cardboard hook my robotics team was testing out right here, and we were going to change that out for a stronger material once we were actually done with it. And that's just one part of the robot we were building. But if we are just meeting, my name is Eli Tennant, and my mission is to help you live as the uniquely creative person that God made you to be. And it's my passion to help you with cardboard projects because I believe that's the best way to access and implement your creativity at home. You can see that I've also become a martial arts black belt. Is just sort of something on the side. It's curious about me. And I started this whole journey way back in 2017 with my first really big project where I created this pinball machine. And it's pretty cool. It's definitely one of the cooler projects I've made, and I've learned many things since then. Back in 2019, I started the Maker Brain YouTube channel, and I've been teaching cardboard crafting tips that are accessible and useful for you ever since then, because it really frustrated me when we would run into videos, just like the ones I was talking about at the beginning of this video, where they sort of they don't say anything in the video, but you sort of get this lie where it feels like if you make a cardboard project, it should turn out perfect because obviously 5 Minute Crafts did it in 5 minutes and it turned out perfect for them. So I wanted to give you a bit of real information on the internet now. But we're going to go to tip number 11. And that's to make it more comfortable. A lot of people don't think about this, but if you want to take your cardboard project from being good to being great, making it more comfortable is a great way to go. And it's like if I have this cardboard gun, it's not the most great thing to hold. I could add little bits to make it more comfortable. I've got this little extra finger piece here, which is a little more comfortable to grip onto, and I've sort of bent some of the edges over so it's not sharp on my hand. But there's a few more things I could do, and you'll see little tweaks like this in videos from like 5 Minute Crafts and the Q, but they don't share why they're doing them, and it doesn't make a ton of sense sometimes. But if you really break it down, you realize that is what they're doing. But also, remember, the tips in this video are not actually in any order, so make sure you stick all the way to tip number 25, and I'll be sharing some bonus information after tip number 25 about creating really great DIY cardboard projects. But tip number 12 is to make it easier to use. So if I'm going to share a project, right, I want it to be easy to understand, but sometimes making projects easier to use is great if it's like something that's functional. For example, back to this headphone stand, the cable wrap is supposed to go around the outside and then tuck inside of these little parts right here on the front and back. And it's kind of annoying to use because you gotta like tuck it through these holes. Perhaps I could create a little hook system that was much simpler and easier to use because you wouldn't have to put it through the holes. And that would really improve that cardboard project. Now, tip number 13 is to make complementary parts to your project. So if I make complementary parts to my project, it's like if I make a cardboard gun, I might make like a cardboard shield to go with it. But also on a more micro level, you can make things that attach to your cardboard project, and that can add some cool functionality to things. If perhaps I wanted to, on this gun, the entire barrel comes off right here, I can make complementary parts, different kinds of things that fit onto the end of this little prop made out of cardboard. And that would be really cool. Also, little creative thing here. There's a little USB in it as well. Right there. It doesn't do anything, but it looks super cool. So, yeah. All kinds of creative things you can do with complementary parts. And it sort of makes things more modular and fun to have around. And tip number 14 is just to make it better, right? And you make it more of whatever it is. If I was trying to make a cardboard bowl, right, I might make it smoother on my next round over so that it isn't so rough on the inside. Maybe I'm trying to make a cardboard sword. I can make it stronger on my next time around or just make it look cooler, right? Make a cardboard project look better. And now tip number 15 is to apply hardeners. In the background there you can see epoxy. Epoxy is a really strong hardener for cardboard. If you want to go on a lower grade level, you can always use Mod Podge, and that'll strengthen your cardboard project a little bit, but it just sort of makes it more durable, so it's less likely to rip and stuff. Mod Podge is great for that. And then also, I have a video on this, but you can use wood glue and water sort of mixed together, and that can become a strong hardener if you apply it a few times to your cardboard project, which is pretty cool. And then also, tip number 16, kind of related, you can paint your cardboard project. So when I'm painting a project, right, you want to usually prime it first, because otherwise the paint will soak way into the cardboard, and priming it will make it look a lot nicer. And then once you're done with that, I recommend coating it with like polyurethane or something to really seal in that paint and keep it a lot better. Like this has been coated with polyurethane so that it feels a little bit smoother, and I'm not going to get that paint all dirty or worn off as easily. It's got a lot more wear resistance with the polyurethane in it. Tip number 17, remember we're going all the way up to 25. They're not in order, and I got some bonus tips for you after that. You can decorate your cardboard project. Back here we've got a cardboard shield in the background, and decorating, right, everybody sort of knows how to do this. You can add different little features. You can see I painted this, but also there's little separate cardboard sections standing out right there. And it's always fun to add some decorations. Making cardboard pieces that stand off is always cool too. Like right here, I got decorations on the inside for those cardboard pieces. And then also when it comes to covering corrugation, if we skip back a few tips, like I'm trying to make it look less like cardboard. So like for this segment, which is cardboard, I got it covered all the way around in paper on all the sides, which makes it look a little bit less like cardboard. And down here, these are just like a cardboard square. It's all covered in paper, so that once I like seal it all up, it'll be a lot less obvious that it's cardboard, and it'll be easier to make the paper look nice than it will having bunches of cardboard corrugations sticking out. And now tip number 18 is to strengthen weak parts. So specific parts of our project can be particularly weak, and strengthening those can be an easy way to make your project better. So I have a like little stand that I put next to my bed. It like hooks onto the side of my bunk bed, and I can put like books and stuff in there. But those hooks, they take all the stress, so they keep breaking. And at first I like tried to glue them back on, and it just sort of broke again. So I took a 3D pen and then reinforced it all with like melted plastic that I put in there, and now it's super strong and it works really well. And that was just reinforcing that one specific weak part. So I'm taking that project from just being good to being great. I'm improving it even though I'm already done building the project. And tip number 19, fix any broken parts, right? This is the in the background, the stand I was just talking about. Or strengthening weak parts. If we skip back to here, you can see I've got like these rubber bands pulling down for this phone clamp. And I had to strengthen those, add some extra hot glue, and make sure stuff didn't fall apart. And we'll jump to tip number 20 is adapting it to a new use. So sometimes we'll build a cardboard project, and then once you have it, you realize there's something else that it could be used for if you added some little feature. So maybe you can add like a little handle on your project, or some other little thing, or a little hook, or a little stick out, so that it's able to do new things. With this headphone stand, I adapted it to another use by adding a little pin on the inside here for a little lip. And now if I have a nail in the wall, I can stick it on top of that nail and it'll hook and then I can hang my headphones on a wall. So I just adapted it to a little bit of a new use and gave it way more functionality and options in the way I can use it. And this is really similar to tip number 21, which is just adding new functionality. You can see in the background here, we've got 2 masks, right? Flashbacks to COVID. And all I had to do is add like a little strap across the back, and it gave it a different kind of functionality because now I could wear it behind my neck instead of behind my ears, and that was pretty great. That's a simple example of adding new functionality, but you get the point. I can add a full new feature to it to have it do something like completely different that I didn't plan on originally, right? So adapting it to a new use is once you realize that you need a new use, boom, you can do that. And then adding new functionality, you sort of add a full new area. So tip number 22 is to make changes based on other people's recommendations. So I always recommend sort of getting feedback on your projects and connecting with people. So if you can do that, that's wonderful. And then they'll give you feedback on your project. They'll be like, it feels weak here, it looks ugly there. And it's hard for you to really tell what they're saying because, it's hard for you to see those things before you hear other people say it because your project is kind of your brainchild, and it's hard to make your own criticism for it sometimes. And tip number 23, solve a flaw in the design. So if I'm gonna create a project, right, sometimes I just make something that's really dumb. Perhaps like I could make something and it spins around and it's not supposed to spin around, right? I can solve a flaw in the design. I can add a little pin and keep it from spinning around. But solving flaws in the design sometimes takes you back to the drawing board of your designing, your planning phase, and that's always something you can do. And now tip number 24 is to make it more fixable. So the fixability is something not a lot of people think about for tip number 24. And when I talk about fixability, sometimes you can make a project and there's a little part in it that tends to break a lot, and there's not a lot you can do about that, but it's also not accessible at all. So if you can make that individual part more fixable, then it'll save you a lot of time in the future when you have to go back and fix that individual part. Perhaps you can make like replacements and just clip them back into your project, and it'll be more fixable, saves you a lot of time. That's something we did a lot on my robotics team. You wanted to make sure you could actually fix the parts. Tip number 25 is to solve the same problem in a different way. So again, going sort of back to the drawing board, I might switch out these little rope handles I had on this one project with handles made simply out of duct tape, because duct tape was a little more comfortable to hold than this like weird rope, and that would just be solving the same problem in a different way, and makes it a lot more comfortable to use, and sort of allows you to use more different creative ideas. And now that covers all of our 25 ways, but we still have some bonus ideas coming up. But before we get to those, I want to ask you, I want to recommend that you ask questions about your cardboard projects. So when you build something, like I was saying about talking with other people, sometimes it's hard to really understand what could be wrong with your cardboard projects, and you need to try to find the, some people call them the stupid smart question, where you ask a question that seems stupid at first, and you realize that you felt so sure of your answer, but you actually weren't really sure of the answer, right? So I might be like, does my cardboard shield need to be thick, right? So initially I would think that my cardboard shield needed to be really thick to be strong enough, but perhaps I could add like ribs to it instead, and that would make the cardboard shield just as strong, and it wouldn't have to have as many layers of cardboard going through it. And so my initial inclination can be wrong sometimes, and that's where asking questions is really important, and always be open to questions. You're never going to really be finished with a cardboard project. Many people call finished, call it that F word, right? Not the real F word, but a different F word is finished, right? No crafter is ever truly finished with their cardboard projects. Everything has room for improvement because there's always some other level you can take your cardboard project to the next level, so it's rarely ever really finished. And that's one reason it's great to ask questions, because you can figure out where that cardboard project hasn't reached its max capacity. But I want to pass the question off to you. Do you ever come back and improve your cardboard projects after you think that they were finished, right? Sometimes I'll finish a cardboard project and then I'll come back and like add another little thing. I've got a little stand over here that holds all of my tools, and I thought that it was finished, but turns out I had to keep improving it, right? Adding more functionality, adding new functionality. That was one of our tips, to hold like different types of tools, adding little shelves into it all as we went. But the question for you, the question of the day is, do you ever come back and improve a cardboard project that has already been finished? Let me know in the comments below or in the live chat, right? And this is only the last step of your cardboard project. If you want to really create a project that is next level, then you need to follow all 5 steps in the 5-step process. Step number 1 is thinking about your cardboard project so that you can actually get a great idea. You'll research that idea or your multiple ideas. Then you go to planning your idea and then building the idea. So we'll plan it out on paper and then we can build it. And then lastly, I'm talking about 25 ways to improve your cardboard project that you learned in this video, different things you can do for that. And I actually have this whole guide that I've been holding up the whole video. It's linked in the description down below. So this printable action plan down there, and you can get it for totally free. It's got recommendations for some of the things you do and helps you go in order. But the whole reason I've got this little circular symbol here, right? This is sort of a circular process. Once you get to the improve phase, you want to go and try to figure out, you'll sort of think about improvements, you'll research those improvements, you'll plan them out, and then you'll build them, you'll add them on to your initial build. So it sort of goes in this circular way where you're constantly getting that cardboard project better. Boom, linked in the description down below for free. All right, so that has been pretty fantastic. This is the Maker Brain Show, and if you love the Maker Brain Show, drop a comment down below. I'm trying to go live a little bit more for you all and create these longer form content videos while also trying to support you with real practical DIY cardboard crafting advice. And there's also extra videos if you want to check those out in the description down below, some extra resources, tool guides and stuff that I have created for you. But thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I really value your time, and it's great that I love that you watched this whole video. You're totally awesome, and God bless you. Have a wonderful day.